Greetings and good day. It's AlterBrap, back again with a rather obscure video. So, who in this audience remembers a character named Oswald? No, not him. Definitely not him. I'm referring to that of the Blue Octopus. Broadcasted across the globe from Nickelodeon's preschool program, Nick Jr., Oswald was an American television series created by illustrator and author Dan Yacanero, best known for his literature for young audiences. Airing in August 20th, 2001, Oswald ran for 26 episodes and ended on September 19th, 2003. Sometime after the show's production, the series was shifted to Noggin on September 5th, 2003, alongside with several other series such as Little Bill, Rubber Dubbers, and Maggie and the Ferocious Beast. Eventually, after Noggin was switched to Nick Jr., the show continued its reruns up till March 11th, 2013. By then, it was off the air. The premise in itself focused on the surreal misadventures of the titular character Oswald, who in itself lived in a New York-esque metropolis inhabited by nonsensical creatures like him. His partners among these storylines are equivalent to that of his pet hot dog named Weenie, a stuck-up, potentially OCD-suffering penguin named Henry, and a hyperactive flower named Daisy. I remember I was like 3 years old whenever I found out about this series. It came on Nick Jr. at the time, and I really enjoyed the calm nature the show had. The show isn't a normal show like other Nick Jr. shows like Bubble Guppies, Little Bill, etc. This is a show way more on par with things on the main Nick network, that's for sure. I think I forgot about the show because of me just getting older, but while searching the WASP Media Wiki Discord server, the user The Magic Yellow J of Holiness brought this show back into my radar. After looking at some clips, the series holds up pretty well. It seems to be basically worshipped in other places like Japan. There are toys, plushes, and freaking cupcakes and flash games. Now, the series was well received from what audiences seem to display, and despite its short lifespan, remained as one of Nick Jr.'s icons for quite some time despite not reaching recognizing links of Backyardigans and Dora the Explorer. However, based on its promotional materials, this series in itself is one way more welcome, sharing its fair share of who and what Oswald was. I do believe this show was a success, just not in America. It seems as if we barely got anything from this series. It is understandable due to its popularity in the UK, Japan, etc. I feel bad America was left out, though. Nevertheless, with the success of the show, managed to pull out several sales on books, VHS, and DVDs. Although whether or not the complete series is available among these releases, I can't say. As a product, I think Oswald is good. He's cute and is very unique, in which I can give anything props for. See, user Magic Yellow J of Holiness, who thankfully goes by an easier name, J Yellow Studio, which for the sake of this video I'm going to call him that, among the Discord server for the Lost Media Wiki, came to my attention about the series in itself a few days prior, or specifically September 17th at the time of writing this. After speaking to J Yellow Studio, I was shocked. How could this series I remember be so forgotten? Just a sudden realization of how much lost documents on this small property was overlooked upon our eyes. probably thanks to Viacom, who we all know is the embodiment of evil. AKK, every villain is lemons. But ignoring such, for the meantime that is, on the topic of our blue cephalopod pianist, today we're going to discuss the legacy that this blue octopus left behind. Noggin.com, or more so NickJr.com, was the profound way to, more so than not to play online flash games of your favorite shows, or whether or not you really do this, read descriptions or bios about your kids' shows. Which honestly, let's admit, we have no attention span big enough for that. I know I never really had any prior to the Nick Jr. website. For me, just kind of existed. Now, the website in this day and age, 2019, has a completely different redesign from the original designs back in the 2000s. Personally, I really enjoy the older layout for nostalgic reasons. But it's clear that with this change, lots of old Nick Jr. shows were removed. Which sure is understandable. Like, why would my child want to play a flash game on a show from the late 90s and early 2000s? But I feel like they should at least show a little bit of respect. So with that, it's clear that Oswald was removed from the website, which is extremely disappointing. From what it seemed on the Oswald section, apparently there seemed to be various forms of activities related to the series. On such, there were apparently 2 recipes for Oswald cupcakes, one for cones, another for normal cupcakes. And apparently there was even a customizable costume, which, if presume it ever loads told information on how to make them, personally, this is just hilarious. And besides, look at it, it's adorable. I want one. Personally, these items are charming and worth saving in my opinion. I feel like any merchandise from any obscure media is worth it, but hey, that's just me. Now, the aspect of this lost media is hard to say the least if it's completely found. Most of the pages when taking the Wayback Machine varies on whether or not they fully load or not. And if they do, it's partially loaded, and in a rather downward loop. There is said to be further older page of the series back in the early age of Nick. Whether or not it's accessible has yet to be told. However, one aspect of the Nick Jr. website that is more so a highlight has to be the flash games. Personally, for me, I find something charming about educational flash games. Despite me hating on them at the same time, it's a weird relationship we have with them. Now, only 3 of the 5 flash games are available on different websites for flash games. The other 2 are only accessible through the Wayback. For the meantime, I'll play the first 3 and give my current opinions on them. Well, until Adobe shuts down all flash games. Each game is very simple. The first game is called Oswald's Hat, and it's the easiest thing ever. You click different black objects till you find the one that is his hat. Then the level never changes, so there is no difficulty. I just don't really see fun in this. Next one is Oswald's Special of the Day. Also very simple, but at least it's an actual game. One of the characters will say which item from the menu they want from the restaurant, then you click on it. Then the next game is called Oswald's Ice Cream, and it's easily the best game. Oswald is supposed to make ice cream for all his friends, so you click on a friend and they tell you what they want with a picture as well, and you make it. Now, on to the remaining last 2 games, which are only accessible through the Wayback Machine. For the most part, J. Gillo Studios had managed to resurface these 2 games, which, funnily enough, only took today for him to find them. Yeah, kind of ironic considering at first he thought they were not possible to play. I suggest if you're interested in the character of Oswald, you should check out the final 2 games, as this is interesting on how they are technically lost media. Though these games are interesting, I don't really see a need to keep them them around for a long time. They're not really games, and I know they were made for 2-year-olds, but come on, man. The remaining leftover on the website are the principal activities, which for the love of me, they cannot be accessed. These also don't have a need to be kept around. But beyond the Nick Jr. website, Oswald made his said impact outside of the US. Now there is said information about being various dubs of Oswald. One of that being the UK dub, which in terms has been replaced with mostly British actors. Meanwhile, there's said to be Japanese dubs of Oswald, which in terms are named as Oswald Wow Wow or Hello Oswald. Footage of such are currently not found, but what is interesting when bringing up this situation is simply the foundation of Oswald has built upon Japan. It was honestly quite heartwarming to see these things from my childhood be basically worshipped. The celebrations did throw me off guard, not gonna lie. However, the fact that they had Japanese exclusive merch, and the fact that they even got this amount of attention at all, makes me feel warm inside. I could have worded that better. The fact that not a single source around the entire web cite these events is a shocking mystery on its own. My guess is the fact that the festivals and celebrations were all Japanese only could have affected it. Not even Wikipedia mentions to write such an event. Though, then again, this reestablished how even the wiki itself isn't the most trustworthy of knowledge. But there lies another, and rather, final addition to this lost media. This is one of those times in lost media where some things may never be retrieved. When Googling Oswald, many of you may have seen this image here on screen. If you squint hard enough, the red text on the bottom left reads as follows: www.oswaldoctopus.net. Unfortunately, if you type that of now, you'll go to the Mattel website. Further research on the mysterious link can be linked back to one of these early releases of Oswald home media videos. Various DVD promos showcasing the Oswald videos would show a link below reading as said to a website for Oswald. I searched all over the place to find the version of the UK dub when J Yellow Studio had mentioned to me that it was lost just like the website, so I tried hard to find it. As you could imagine, I had a mixture of mad and disappointment, but oh well, what could I do? Regarding to what it is, J Yellow Studio has offered their insights of what the website was. Most of what I am going to write has to be taken with a grain of salt, primarily because most of what I experienced in this website has died out over the years. I can't recall when I went on the website, but I assume around 2015 to 17, perhaps even longer, but whenever it was then. I was achieving a lot of Oswald materials for a future project to redeem the old series by publishing a non-official book of all the history of Oswald. And yes, while this seemed like an odd project, I mostly want to preserve all I loved about this show and keep it in a book. Whether it's worth it doing it or not may come later. I don't know. But what I do know is that during my time collecting stuff, I revisit the www.oswaldoctopus.net website in order to collect some of the aspects there. But going on there now, the entire website is replaced with the Mattel homepage. One of the few options, if I can recall, sent you to a downloadable page for printing color pages or downloading wallpaper. One of them being Oswald in the Park as shown earlier. Another option led you to a page to which, what I hope is correct, Henry's Living Room, where you can watch a clip of an episode. The last thing I remember was one of the games being Oswald's special of the day, Perhaps it wasn't, but I recall something of sorts on the website. Other than such, that's as far as my memory goes. It's not the most exciting website ever, I'm aware of such, but it is something I wish to visit again regardless of its quality, if not just for the sake to know if it was real. Perhaps I may never know, but I'm only glad to tell the honest experience I can recall. But it does recapture the speed of time and how all good things come to an end, even if we desire them to return those days. Despite me not having much knowledge about Oswald, he was still a major part of my childhood, and I would never forget such an innocent and relaxing series. Oswald was a show that came and went all throughout, and though its impact across the US wasn't as successful as Japan or the UK, Oswald lived on as a well-received cartoon, and the audience of any age would enjoy for what it's worth. Yet it is sad to see it go. Things are often left to be remembered than to be forced back. Though even then, it is unlikely something like Oswald would return to the network, much less a reboot equivalent to Blue's Clues. But that isn't to say it's impossible. If Pingu, an equally popular show, can regain a reboot, even Japanese exclusive, why can't Oswald? Even then, it probably wouldn't be worth the effort if we know the money is going to Viacom. Perhaps it's because of us. We as people often forget the youth of our years. Growing up in a world where time will fly and memories will fade, a such thing as Oswald may seem minuscule of a property to really warrant any attention. But to most others, it was an icon of Nick Jr. Regardless of his lack of much fame, to say that Oswald touched the hearts of the few kids that loved him is an understatement. And it is that certain shows like these deserve at least a warrant of respect. It is unfortunate to admit this, but because of our growing social media and current evolution on the internet, stuff like this is getting lost among the cyberspace. While lost media often lends a hand to finding us resources, it is also to note that we are still individuals and we work as a team to find such remaining data of lost memories. Oswald the Octopus remains a core part of many childhood memories, and while the show itself can still be seen among any platform, such as Amazon, his websites are, however, a different story. His legacy is beginning to fade off. The fact there still exists a website to dedicate his popularity in Japan is much to say a shocking revelation. Even then, as time goes on, the more obscure he becomes, and indeed many documents of such have begun to fade away. But it is why it's important to share, connect, and archive such discoveries. So one day, when we look back, people knew he existed, and that his legacy will live on, no matter how much time goes by, and no matter how faded the memories